All right, there we go. So how was your weekend, Emmeline?
It was good. I actually just got back from Disneyland, so
Oh, how
can't complain.
miserable for you. That is just terrible.
I know.
I would say that's kind of lucky. I get to go in March.
Oh, that's fun. I love Disneyland.
Well, I'm glad you had a fun trip doing that. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Did,
it was fun.
what'd you do, Nick?
I mostly worked at my job. I I believe I did take a day off and just took for myself, but mostly I just worked all weekend.
Well, good. Yeah, I was working too. And one of the things I had put together this marvelous thing on the computer, and I was so excited. It was great. And then when I went to use it this morning, it was for a presentation I had to give. I found out that when I had updated it yesterday, I'd accidentally managed to erase the entire thing. So all the stuff I'd done over the weekend was completely destroyed. Sigh.
That is so
Ouch.
sad.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. A little violin is playing for me. Yep.
That SpongeBob episode. Mr. Krabs playing the little violin.
Well, I'm. It's good to hear that you guys are active, and it's good to see stuff. I have been going through and grading things. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. It seems that human beings are the kind of people that it's a lot easier to notice something to complain about it than to recognize that something is going right. So I hope people see that I am grading. I'm trying to get everything done so that this next week everybody sees exactly where they are. And if we, it's important too because if we, I want to make sure that everybody has extra time to do stuff. So if they need to revisit anything, they can. I've had a number of people look at the biomorphic abstraction carving and I've made comments on their stuff and they've gone back and touched it up and resubmitted it. And I've noticed that a lot of people are taking advantage of that. And I really appreciate that quite a bit. In a class like what we have, if we were able to meet in person, then I, I go around and I talk to everybody individually about the stuff that they're doing. And that helps quite a bit. I've only had maybe 3 people refuse to do any of the stuff that I suggested. And since it directly related to the purpose of the assignment, they weren't getting really good grades. But it's difficult to do that when we have to do it by um, internet. I have to try to talk through what I want to say because when I offer critique to people, like I said, critique should never be nasty or rude or negative. What I'm There are certain things for each assignment that people I'm hoping that people get or gain from it. And the critique that I offer is specifically related to things like following the directions of the assignment and what is the intent of the assignment. And so I'm really hoping that nobody feels like they're being singled out or attacked on any level. And that's not not what I want anybody to feel. You know, if this is a 3D class and some of the comments I'll make are things along the lines of that I've done in the past, like last semester, I needed to tell a couple of people this doesn't fill the assignment for the carving because the carving needs to be smooth, like we talked about, like we showed the uh, images and examples of, or your bibliography needs to be arranged alphabetically and all the citations need to be done in MLA format, and that's not the case. Or one person did a really excellent job on it all, but instead of formatting their citations in MLA style, the ones that they found online, they just included the link for the website, and that's not, like we talked about before, that's not proper citation. And I think that one of the problems we have as students is we feel pressure to get everything done. And one of the problems we have as teachers is trying to correctly communicate the point of the assignment. And sometimes the point of the assignment is just to follow directions in a certain way. I've when I was struggling in school, my mom was still alive, and at that time she told me, sometimes you just got to do what the directions tell you to do, regardless of whether or not you think you could do it better. You've just got to follow directions. And thankfully, so far in this class, in this semester, there hasn't really been an issue. But in previous semesters, there's been some doozies. I think I was telling you guys last week or the week before about regarding the bibliography. One young lady had come from Kosovo, and she kept thinking that the bibliography was biography, and she was not understanding why she was not getting a very good grade. And I had to include when I kept saying this is a bibliography, and she thought she was doing a bibliography, and I had to include a link to a definition of what a bibliography is, and then she understood, which was sad because she did a really good job. But it's difficult giving points for an assignment that the directions aren't being followed for. I've also had people turn in work that they've done in previous years for other classes that they thought kind of fit the assignment. And I remember one student was very indignant that I wasn't giving them full marks on something. And I actually had given them a 0, and they were really upset. And so I told them, if, in the syllabus, it says everything needs to be done for this class this semester. And if you don't agree with that, please talk to my boss and make sure he knows you're upset. And it was very satisfying because I don't know exactly what Jason told them, but when they came back, they were really, really quiet and followed directions. Sometimes we hope to get people in trouble and it backfires. Have you guys ever had a situation like that turned out to feel very satisfying in kind of a nasty way?
Sometimes.
Well, today we're going to be focusing on texture and light, but if you guys want to ask questions regarding the biomorphic abstraction carving or the paper mache, feel free. Emmeline, are you still in a position where you can talk?
Yeah, I should be able to.
Okay, all right, good. Do you understand, or do you have any questions regarding the biomorphic abstraction carving? Because I tried to do a little bit more clarification on that I updated the module a little bit over the weekend.
No, I think I have a clear understanding.
Okay. Because I have had people do something that looked like steampunk circuit boards before, which were neat, but we wanting to get away from the blockiness of the block and needing it to look organic and smooth kind of prevents the whole steampunk circuit board aesthetic from being realized. And most of the time people understand. I think when we keep talking about shapes like coral, knuckle bones, shoulder blades and teeth, people really get a lot better idea. And I think I've had students have asked me to, and that's why I've included those photographs of or the photos of samples, because that does help a lot. So I'm glad. I really appreciate the fact that you guys get that. Before we go into the rest of it, I did want to see if anybody had any plans to do the artistic critiques. And somebody had pointed out that I was unclear regarding the time, the directions on time, and somebody else didn't really understand that there needed to be 2 critiques. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that. Of course, it isn't due until December 18th, but if at all possible, if anybody can do it before then, that is really, that makes it a lot easier on you guys. I'm sorry, not December 18th, December 8th is when it's done. Let's see, and I have been looking through, I have not seen where there's a disparity of time. Because I say 3 to 5 minutes long. If I say 2 to 4 minutes instead of 3 to 5 minutes, because it should be 3 to 5 minutes long, both of them, I would just recommend doing it at 4 minutes because then that fits for both. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's only 3 to 5 minutes long. Yeah, if you guys want to do 3 minutes, that's going to be just fine. Again, these artistic critiques, I'm going to share my screen really quick here. Well, I say really quick. I don't have a 12-year-old in the house right now, so computer technology takes a little bit longer. All right, there we go. All right. Hopefully you guys can see this. The module that says applying the tools of artistic critique. Again, the due date says December 8th, and December 8th. They're all 3 due December 8th. But if you can do them like between now and the end of November, that's going to really take a lot of stress off of you. And in the discussion, it references for full points, you need to post both videos. You don't have to post them both at the same time. As soon as you finish one, you can post it and then come back and post the other one later. And if I don't catch it in the grading, just let me know. But I should be able to catch it in the grading. That shouldn't be a problem. What I am noticing is that when people give me comments on different things, Canvas doesn't always, on assignments, Canvas doesn't always tell me when comments are supplied by students. So in this module, it says one assignment is artistic critique my own work. The other assignment is artistic critique somebody else's work. 3 things about this. One is that it helps to ask yourself the questions before you start filming. And the 4 questions you need to ask yourself, but instead of asking, you give the answer out loud. You say those 4 questions have to do with describing the object. The second one is analyzing the object. The third one is interpreting the object, and the fourth one is evaluating the object. So the questions are, the first one is what? What is it that we're looking at? And you describe what it is, and you try to describe it as factually as possible. The second question is how? How did the person who made it make it? You know, what kind of techniques did they use? Did they sand it down? Did they leave it rough? Did they apply many different textures? Did they only apply a couple? Did they paint it? Did they stain it? What kinds of other questions can you, or what kinds of other things can you talk about when you look at how they made the object? And the third one, interpret, is why. Why did they make the choices that they did? And that one, you're going to have to use your imagination, like we talked about last week. You're going to have to just, I'm not going to say guess so much, it's more extrapolation. All of you guys have been doing art for long enough that you can extrapolate by looking at something. You can begin to extrapolate maybe how that relates to the artist's potential worldview. And whether or not you're right doesn't matter. What matters is that you articulate it. And then the last one is evaluate. Is it successful? If this is done just for an assignment, does it look like it's successful as an assignment? If it's done for another reason, is it successful for that other reason? And I also have a number of links in here. One is the link to the introduction to our tools of artistic critique. And then I have links. There's a playlist of what people have done in the past. And I really like this first link, this first video describing what you see, Henry Moore, reclining figure. That has two art historians applying this process to an actual thing. And I would like to share this video with you. We're not gonna have time to go through the whole video, but and we're not gonna listen to it at all. But I did want to share it with you as the people are looking at this sculpture, walking around, looking at it. The video is all still frame, so they're not actually walking around, as you can see, but we're looking at it and then they're describing it. And then they start talking about the techniques that were being used to create this thing the way it looks. And then they start getting into why, and they start talking about the different associations it brings to their minds. And then the last thing they talk about whether or not they like it, how, and if it feels like it's finished. And so this is an excellent video to watch to kind of get a flavor for that. So when you guys are ready to do this artistic critique, I'm sorry, I was describing this video and nobody could see it because I hadn't shared the window. But they go through and use each of those 4 steps to talk about this sculpture in particular. So that's I think that it's really worthwhile to watch this particular video before you do this assignment. Are either of you interested in doing an artistic critique, either for something of your own work or for somebody else's?
I'd like to do my own.
Okay, that'd be great. If you can do that, and just when you do it and turn it in, just remind me, because I think it would be really cool to share that. If you're able to do that in the next week, it'd be really cool to be able to share that with people.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Do I have to like make something of this semester, or can I take something from like past years? Like say I took a photo of like now, could I use a photo? Do I have to take a picture of now, or can I use a photo from my past?
Well, right at the very beginning, it says spend 3 to 5 minutes critiquing one of your own pieces you have made for this class this
Oh.
semester.
Yeah, I'm just blind. Sorry.
So no, that's no problem. It's good to have that clarification because it's right above a heavy line, and several people have missed that. So yes, that is a really good clarification. It needs to be for something made for this class for this semester, which is why I'm asking everybody to take photos of their work and put it into those discussions. You just get 5 points. It's not very much, just a couple points, but I would like everybody to go through that, when they're looking for other work to critique, and just pick something. It really does not matter what you pick. The first semester I taught this class, I had people bring random objects from their home, and then when they got to class, I had them trade them with other people and then do the critiques on random objects that they brought into class. And then they did another piece of art that they selected for themselves. That was an interesting exercise because it forced people to go through the process without really, it forced people to go through the process and look at something that was ordinary in light of viewing it through an artistic lens. When somebody describes the delicate shading of color on the label of a toothpaste tube, you know that they're an art student. But we're not going to be doing that. You're only critiquing one of your own works, and then something else that you see in one of the discussions for this class. So yeah, but yes, that is a good question. Thank you for asking it. Emmeline, would you be able to do one at all?
Does that entail doing it today, or do you mean like prepare for it next time?
I would doing it and videoing it so that you can upload it sometime in the next week.
Yeah, I think I could do that.
Okay, that'd be awesome, because then both of those I will share them and we'll go through them next week. When we do this class. Next week it's going to be a little bit weird. I don't know if I'm going to have internet connection next Wednesday. I might. If I do, we'll do the class as normal. If I don't, then what I'll do is, if it's okay with you guys, I will include your videos and just do the lecture and then upload the lecture so everybody can see it. So yeah, if you guys are able to do that for next week, that would be truly, truly awesome. I appreciate that a great deal. Yeah, I'm going to be driving. I'm going to be someplace in Oregon next Wednesday night. Don't know exactly where, and I'm praying really hard that there's internet service.
Hey, that's all we can do. Is just pray that there is.
Yep. So it sounds like you guys have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Have either of you had any problems with doing the paper mache?
Um, Probably like thinking of like a way to like get the thing removed from its styrofoam base. I mean, when I was doing it, it was like difficult trying to get into the tight corners of what I was doing. That was the annoying part.
Well, what I've done before on this is just take it off the base completely, and I have done the paper mache on one side, let it dry a bit, turn it to another side, do the paper mache on that, and move it around. And then I've just had to use a pair of scissors to dig a hole out so I can mount it back onto the base. But it just, hopefully it's not too big of a struggle with the paper mache. I have noticed that some people may need to use more paper mache than what's provided. And all that we've done is use its regular flour and its Elmer's wood glue, essentially, then and water, and that's it. So if you guys need to make more, that's one way of doing it. I've also seen that they've used different materials for the paper, and you can do this with sheets. I wouldn't recommend that. It's going to be hard to sand, but I have had people use paper towels before. That can be problematic if you let it soak in the paper mache goo for a while. If you let it soak too long, it turns into pulp, and that's disgusting. But I've also had people try to use magazine pages, and that's a really bad idea. The clay in the magazine pages that make them glossy make it very difficult for you to use them for paper mache. Emmeline, did you have any problems with the paper mache?
So I hope that I'm not too behind, but I'm finishing up my biomorphic abstraction right now. So I haven't started on that one yet. I did have a question though. So, and I should already know this. I'm a little bit embarrassed. But is this an addition on to the biomorphic abstraction, or is it completely separate?
The paper mache needs to be done on the biomorphic abstraction, and it is not due. I'm going to share a page with really quick here. So the paper mache is designed to be done specifically onto biomorphic abstraction carving, and it is not due until October 5th, for 2 weeks. So if you haven't finished your carving, that's not a big deal at all. I was just trying to see if anybody had any problems. And the paper mache, you take your biomorphic carving when you're all done, it's sanded and it's smooth. You put a layer of paper mache on it, use a sandpaper to sand down the rough edges, rough corners, rough texture, and then put a second layer on and do the same thing. And then that will give us the base that we need for our sculpture so that we can paint and apply texture to it later on. Because that's what we're going to be doing after we do this next module, is we'll be returning to this and applying texture and color to it. So it is the same biomorphic abstraction. One thing I'm really concerned about regarding the paper mache is that the glue, it hardens and it hardens really well. I heartily recommend do not wash any of it down your sink at all. Typically, I advise people, and I've mentioned this before in our meetings, get a plastic garbage sack, use that as a covering for your table when you do the paper mache. When you're done, use paper towels or whatever you need to wipe your hands off. Get your hands as clean as possible with paper, like paper towels or wipies even, those are good too. Then wrap all that up in the plastic bag that you used as a table covering so that you aren't trying to wash anything down a sink. Washing down the sink is a profoundly bad idea. So please don't do that. And it makes it a lot easier. And you don't have to use all the batch that you make at the same time either. You can put the lid on it and it will last for about 3 days or so in that Tupperware container that everybody has. Just when you go to reuse it, make sure you stir it up really well and squish the lumps out. I also recommend, as much as possible, if you can, I can't do it. I don't have, I have to be able to use my fingertips, but if you can, getting those disposable vinyl gloves is a really good way to protect your skin and your hands from the paper mache. Like I said, I can't do it myself, but I want people to know that that is a really good possibility. Okay,
So
Emmeline, in all that rambling, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Okay, all right, good. All right, Nick, what were you saying?
I was just gonna see for the kit, that Tupperware with the yellow bag, with the yellow stuff in the bag, is that clay?
No, that's the wood glue for the paper mache.
Oh, so was that what you were explaining, like how to use it?
Right. That's what I'm talking about. In that Tupperware container, you have a bag with the glue, and you have the flour in there, and you mix those together with water until it becomes kind of like a melted milkshake texture, and you work the lumps out, and that's how you get the paper mache material fluid to run your newspaper or paper towel or whatever you're using through. So the flour and glue and water mixture, I talk about how you need to squish the bumps out, and I included there's a link to a video that I did that kind of demonstrates that.
Okay.
And kind of showing a little bit how to do that. So when you go to, let's see if I can find it here. Let's see. I'm trying to find where I put that video link. And I am referring to the biomorphic abstraction as the Mighty Voltron sculpture, because we're going to be doing several different things to it. Let's see. This is odd. Okay, because I had put a link in to my demonstration, and oh no, okay, yeah, I know what's going on now. if you go to, and I'm going to go to it really quick here. The link is actually in the biomorphic abstraction module. And I'll show you right where that is. And that I'm demonstrating how to do the paper mache in that. So let's see. I'm just gonna pull it up here.
So the stuff that so while you're pulling that up, so for the purple foam stuff, so do we sand it then do the paper mache, or is it
Yes,
okay?
you want to get it as smooth as you can.
Okay, my brain was giving me panic attacks, and I was like, "We're doing this right, are we?"
Let's
So yeah,
see. And there's also things with the carving balsa wood and stuff like that. And we're not carving balsa wood. If you go to, and I'm just, we have that in there so you can kind of see just the process of carving in general. So let's see. Okay, this is in module 3. If you go down to the project page section of that, it's called Carved Biomorphic Abstraction. So I'll show you again how to find it. So it's labeled module 3, and you go down, Carved Biomorphic Abstraction, open that up, and here right at the top of it, it says now we return to your regular scheduled thing. The Tate has there's a little bit of an example right there, and then this next one it says my brilliant demonstration. That link takes you to a video where I demonstrate the carving, what it looks like, as well as towards the end how to apply the paper mache. And I think what I'm going to do right now is make a copy of that, and I will put it in to the paper mache module as well. And I think that would probably help, because then people can see the demonstration right there as well. So I'm doing that right now, and I believe it's the last 10 minutes of the video. And I'm going to be putting it in the section under paper mache that says Mighty Voltron Sculpture Revisited. I'm quiet and typing so that, because I'm putting that in right here. All right. Okay, I have inserted another link to that same video in the Mighty Voltron Sculpture Revisited section, and I'll show you where that is.
thank you. That's all I had.
All right, so right here it says Mighty Voltron Sculpture Revisited. And if I go to modules and scroll down, see right here under paper mache, the Mighty Voltron Sculpture Revisited is this one right here. And that's where I put that video. So I would really appreciate if you guys wouldn't mind double checking that at some point tonight, make sure that it looks clear and, and you understand what's going on. If you have any questions, let me know so I can clarify it. All right. Do you guys have any questions about the stuff that I've talked about so far?
I don't.
How about you, Emmeline?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Excellent. This next module is texture and light. And I wanted to share something with you that is a surprise to a lot of people. And let's see if I can. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share something really quick here. What a lot of people don't realize is that during the Renaissance, when everybody was working on white marble, do you guys know why they did that?
I'm gonna take a wild guess because it was much easier to either work with or if it was smoother.
Well, it was, yeah, and those are good guesses. What they were trying to approach, and there are actually essays written about this by Renaissance era artists. They were talking about how much they admired the work that was done by Romans and Greeks in their sculptures. And since they only saw these sculptures as polished white marble, they thought that's how they were originally done. And from that era, from the Renaissance as well, we even get statements about from some of these artists that the whiter it is, the more beautiful it is. Which, you know, in the real world, when so many different people look so different, that kind of description becomes problematic. At the time, though, that's what they felt. They felt that the marble had to be pure and white, and because that's what they thought the original Romans and Greek sculptors did. The problem is, as people were finding these Roman and Greek carved sculptures for Renaissance Italy consumption, they would pull them up, and the paint that was on them, they were actually originally painted, the paint that was on them would be bubbled and nasty and gross and disgusting. And the work people who found these sculptures would scrape the paint off and then burnish the sculpture down so that no trace of the paint was visible. But that's not how these sculptures actually looked. This is a reconstruction, and they know that this, or they have a really good idea that this is how these sculptures actually look. Can you see this?
I do.
Okay, good. They know that this is how these sculptures actually looked because when they examined the surface of marble with microscopes, and this is just within the last 30 years, they were discovering flecks of what turned out to be paint. Have you guys ever heard of somebody named Severus Septimus?
No.
I think that's his name. It could be Septimus Severus. I get the. Okay, it is Septimius Severus. He was a Roman emperor from about the 3rd century. He is the guy that pretty much defined the landscape of London. You know, he's the guy that gave English identity, essentially. He was actually, and there are busts of him all around London. It wasn't until within the last 20 years that somebody found out that this Septimius Severus was a Black Roman emperor. He was actually born in Libya. His wife was Syrian, and his family had been one of the Syrian families that had basically become successful Romans in their own right, and had become citizens, you know, over a couple of generations. And it shocked a lot of people because everybody expected all the Roman emperors to be Caucasian. And this is a guy who was one of the more powerful Roman emperors who was actually Black from Africa. And it surprised people. So when Greeks and Romans would do their sculptures, they painted them so that they would look more lifelike. You know, this is what they look like now because that paint has been rotted off, worn off, or scraped off. And you can imagine how brilliant these things would be with color. So I wanted to share a different one. This is another video that I've included that I wanted people to look at. We see these, the frescoes are all painted and everything like that. We kind of expect that. When we look at the sculptures, they look like this now. They look very white and clean. And what they actually looked like originally was this. And the colors are because people were able to analyze the paint flecks that were caught in the surface of the marble that you can't see with your bare eye, and then they would mimic that color with the paint on this replica statue. So it's very different, isn't it? You look at that where it's all white, and then you look at the way that it originally was done with those colors. It is very different, isn't it? What do you guys think? Is that a surprise to either of you?
Sort of. But in a little way, I kind of imagined what the colors would be.
How about you, Emmeline? Is that kind of surprising to see that they were originally painted?
Yeah, I remember when I first learned that, and it was very surprising.
Oh, so you already know it, so that it's not a shock. That's good, but it is surprising. And most of us, when we talk to people about art and stuff like that, they have no idea. And this gives just several other examples. This sculpture, we can even see some of those traces of paint. It looks, though, almost like these are burn marks in the stone, even though this is remnants of what the paint was. Then this is a reconstruction of what it looked like fully painted.
That is absolutely horrifying.
But so I've included those videos. I'd like you to watch those just to get a feel for this. And there are several different examples in there that I really like. I'm hoping that what I showed you doesn't get us dinged on the YouTube algorithm. So after you watch those videos and just have that in the back of your head that we're going to be dealing with color, what we're also dealing with texture. And these artists for the background, that all these videos are really short videos. Most of them are really short. Watch them all. And these talk about a lot of different artists that will use specifically color and texture in their sculptural work. And there's some really fascinating ones. I think one of the ones that I really appreciate a lot is El Anatsui. The way he uses color is a little bit different. He doesn't apply it. And the way he uses texture comes as a result of the material that he's using. El Anatsui, when he started as a sculptor, he was walking in a field and he found this big garbage bag that was filled. Yeah, he's from Ghana. It was filled with milk bottle lids. And in Ghana, they sell milk in bottles with metal lids. And he saw that and he started thinking, well, this is just something that somebody threw away, but I bet I can find a use for it. And so what he does now is he will take beer cans, he will take milk bottle lids, he's even done stuff with pull tabs from pop bottles, or I'm sorry, not pop bottles, pop cans, different things like that. And I want to show you a picture of something that he's done. All right, here we go. So this is something that El Anatsui has done, and it looks like it's just a draped cloth, doesn't it? But we can look a little bit closer, and you can start seeing that these are lids. there are better shots that show it a lot closer up, but these are lids and pull tabs and links that are made from basically discarded metal. And what is astonishing to me is that he uses this hard, sharp metal that can cut you very easily, but he turns it into something that looks visually like it has a texture of fabric. And I think that that is absolutely astonishing. He is completely transformed. We talked a little bit earlier about how the two extremes of material use in sculpture are to make the material look like something completely different than what it is. And the other extreme is to make the material look even more like what it is. You know, like that's when you use stain on wood to make the grain really pop out. And on this, what he's doing is the material, it's obvious that the material is metal when you look up close, but as you step back, it starts taking on the visual texture of fabric. And it completely transforms that harsh, sharp, dangerous metal into something that is, it drapes like cloth. I mean, it looks like cloth. If you didn't know what this is, would you think that this was just textiles, just material?
Yeah, I would.
So, thank you. Thank you for that answer. It was the right answer. But for the artist review, um, go through that list of artists that are in that section background for the module labeled texture and light. And on this, what you're going to do is talk briefly about each of the artists and identify how they use texture in their artwork. So the first paragraph will be about the first artist, and you can even title that paragraph with the name of the artist. Then give just a sentence, give a couple sentences on how they use texture in their art and how it is they use it uniquely as their own stuff. And in paragraph 6, so you do that for each of the 5 artists, and then paragraph 6, you just write briefly about which of the artists you find most meaningful. Now on this quiz, I did want to go through the quiz quickly. If you guys have any questions, we can address them, but for the quiz, I don't like to go through each and every single one of the questions, but I do want to talk about a few of them. Now this first question is, you have 3 points for listing 12 adjectives that we can use to describe texture. What I would recommend doing is brainstorming this with somebody before you start taking the quiz. And just sit down with your friends, family, or roommates, and just have them start giving you words about that describe textures. Some of the textual words, and you can't get credit for using these. I listed 6 right there, so you have to list different ones. Now, the first few are going to be difficult to list, but once you get in a roll, you can very quickly come up with 12. So I'm gonna say a couple textures, and then I'd like Emmeline, if you could say a couple like 3 textures, and then I'll have Nick say 3 textures. So the textures I'm going to say are, let's see, spiky is a texture. See, I'm going to say hairy rather than furry, feathery, slimy, snotty, slippery, soapy, spiky. So that's like 5 or 6 textures. Emmeline, can you list 3 textures?
Yes. Fuzzy, squishy, and smooth.
Excellent, very good. How about you, Nick?
Is it for like the same one that you asked, or can I choose a different one?
But you just come up with 3 of your own textures that we haven't mentioned before.
Let me think. Rough. Bumpy. Oh no, that's already on there.
If you want, you could just rub your hands over whatever materials or surfaces are near you and describe those surfaces.
On my counter's like a bit smooth.
What's that?
My counter's a bit smooth. I'm just trying to think real hard so I don't just copy what is said already.
Well, and this brings me to a good point. This is why I'd like you to do this with a number of people, because when you first start, it's going to be hard to come up with different ones. But once you get on a roll, like in class, we did this as an exercise. In the first 2 minutes, it was really hard. But then after that, people just started popping them out over and over and over again. And before 10 minutes had gone by, we had filled the board with over 50 different textures. So one texture I like, and I don't know what you'd call it, but if you used like newspaper for your paper mache and were particularly paying attention to how the letters looked, that, like I guess we could call that texture texty, so it looks like text and letters. That's kind of a fun one. I've also seen people use thumbtack heads, as well as gluing the heads down so that the thumbtack pins are facing out.
Okay.
I don't know what you describe that.
By the way, what about like that feeling you get when you like touch styrofoam, that like noise?
Yeah, squeaky.
Yes, squeaky or staticky.
That I like too, because it's kind of an odd one because it really doesn't necessarily describe a completely physical texture, but we have an idea of what you're talking about. Yeah, that's great. That's perfect.
Sweet.
So on this, you just need to list 12 that are different than the 6 that are shown up there. And the answers are all found in for these questions are all found in your textbook. And I don't know if you guys remember at the very first of the term, I said it's easy to tell who has their textbook or not because each of the quizzes has at least one question where the correct answer for the quiz is out of the textbook. And there's a couple quizzes that have, 3 or 4 of the questions are like that. But there's what is the simplest definition of a line? The one we're looking for the quiz is directly out of the textbook, which is not shortest distance between 2 points. Completely different. On this question 5, people get hung up on this because I think they read it too quickly. Visual texture is primarily experienced with the eyes. Is that true or false? Say primarily experienced, and we're using the word visual. Visual relates directly with the eyes. So visual texture is primarily experienced directly with the eyes. So the answer to this is true. And this natural light kind of hints back to, remember the Abraham Lincoln lighting when the John French was working on that sculpture? Congress didn't want to give him money for the lights that he wanted to use, and it made Abraham Lincoln, and because the light source was not controlled, it made him sometimes Abraham Lincoln look a lot different. And natural light is always changing, and sometimes that's what you want with your art, but not always. Sometimes you want it under your control. And I think this next question 7 on the left, James Terrell, it is really important to him that the light not be under control, that it move around the room, and that it behaves differently according to different times of day. So that's very important. But Dan Flavins it was vital that the light stay exactly the way it is. And so his is artificially lit. These pieces, I always surprise people that this is ceramic and then this is polymer clay, because they look so they look so normal and natural. It looks like somebody just hung up a jacket. I did an exhibit about 3 years ago at oh, I forget what it's called. It's in Sandy, or it's in West Valley City. It's the art center there. I guess it's called the West Valley City Art Center. But in that, I had an artist who does ceramics, and he made just a worn flip-flop out of ceramic. And he colored it and everything, so it looked just like a worn flip-flop. And as the gallery director was helping me set up the exhibit, he almost dropped it. He was shocked because he expected it to just be a flip-flop. And when he realized that it was clay, he almost broke it. That would have been embarrassing. And in this question 9, we need to talk about the ideas of beauty bound to cultural and historical definitions of beauty. So spend a couple of sentences talking about that. While that phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, first appeared in print in 1812, so it's a relatively new idea. It is interesting to me that how people define beauty is related to what they know and what they're comfortable with. Scarification is used as a permanent makeup in some cultures, as well as tattooing. And for other cultures that aren't familiar with that, it feels really unsettling. It doesn't feel beautiful. And what's funny about that, especially if like tattooing, Moko or Maori tattooing is something that has become a lot more acceptable among Maoris because they want to explore their own culture. And in the West, I've heard people say, oh, why are they doing permanent damage to their face like that? It's terrible. And I think that that's kind of ironic because first, it's not up to us to judge what another culture does. That's within the confines of that other culture. But the other thing is, you can get cosmetic tattooing in a lot of different places where people will do what looks like permanent mascara on your eyes and things like that, or do permanent lip color and things like that. So it is a facial tattooing, but it's somehow more acceptable within that other culture. I think that's kind of interesting. And this talks about different textures and things like that. And then the last one, we're just talking about how does the texture emphasize the sculpture? What kind of impact does it have? And so those are questions to consider as you take this quiz. Oh, excuse me, I want to sneeze really bad. Or it feels like I need to sneeze really bad, but it's not happening. So when you take that quiz, it's a really good idea to have access to your textbook with you so that you can use that to help you answer the questions. And on a couple of those, since it is an opinion question, what your opinion is not important to me. What is important is that you're able to articulate your opinion. Now, I just clicked something. Hopefully we'll be able to see it soon. But I wanted to share with, okay, here we go. Here's the texture and color tiles assignment. And there's a couple things I need you to do, but I want you to look down here at the examples. We have lots of different examples. And I'll tell you some of the pitfalls people come into as they do this. There are two parts to this assignment. One part is, well, you're supposed to make 2 cubes, and each of the cubes is made with identical 4-inch by 4-inch squares that you cut out of that cardboard box you have as part of the kit. So you're going to have 2 cubes that you turn in, and you're going to make those cubes up with tiles that you've either given texture to or made colored collages with, color collages. When you do, I don't know how well you can see this one. Okay, that's good. We can see that. So one cube is going to have texture. The other cube is going to have collages that show your use of color. Now, down up here, this link right here that says canva.com colors color wheel. I'll show you what that link takes you to. This is the Canva color wheel demonstration page. And I like this for a number of reasons. It talks about different color combination schemes. We have complementary, monochromatic, analogous, triadic, and tetradic. And I'll talk about what each of those mean. And what you can do is click on one of these color schemes, then go up to this wheel, pick a color, and it will show you the other colors that are within that color scheme. So do you remember what complementary means?
I do, because I had taken a class on it. I think I can
Okay.
remember it. Complementary colors is like, I think it's like the opposite colors, CMYK,
Yes,
or
that's
complementary
right.
to the other.
Yeah, exactly. So if we go to blue, like a strong blue, the complement to that is going to be yellow. Now in this, it's more of a purple, and so the complement is green. But if I go more blue, the more blue that I go, the more yellow the complement is. If I go to purple, I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong, aren't I? Duh, I should know this because I'm teaching the class. The opposite of blue, the complement of blue is going to be orange. And then the complement of purple is going to be yellow. What is a little bit frustrating about this is the color wheel doesn't go blue, red, and yellow. This has become more of a green. So, gross. I'm thinking I may have to find a different program because this one is a little bit off. I picked it because I thought it was unusual, but I don't want you guys, if it makes you guys know enough about color, I don't want you to be confused by that. This is the way it's supposed to look. So, orange and blue are complementary because they're opposite. We go to monochromatic, it's shades of the same color. We go to analogous, it's on either side of the color. So orange, the analogous colors to support it are going to be yellow and red. And then if we go to triadic, it's going to be evenly spaced around the color wheel. And if we go to tetradic, it's going to be 4 spots around the color wheel. Yeah, I am really sorry, guys. This one bothers me, and I wonder if it's the color on my screen that's off. That may be the case, but I'm gonna find a better color wheel for this exercise so you guys can play around with it. Now, this doesn't talk about 2 other color schemes. This only talks about these ones. One of the other color schemes that it doesn't talk about is achromatic. Achromatic is when you do something in shades of gray, because there isn't a hue that's associated with the gray. And then the fourth one is just random, essentially. People just use random colors. And that happens every once in a while. It doesn't really make me very comfortable, and that's not one that I want you guys to work with because it can feel really unsettling, and it's known to make people nauseated. So we want to stay away from that. So I will change this color wheel here to give you a better one to work with. But what you're going to be doing is making up 6 collages using some kind of material that is that you can use to generate color. Easiest thing is going to be magazine pages, and you can get magazines pretty cheaply at like Dollar Tree and other things like that. Just make a collage from that. Or if you want to do it free, what I would recommend is going to like a Walmart Supercenter or a store like Home Depot or Lowe's. You go to their paint section and you can just get, they have style guides that show to have pictures of different color use, and they also have paint chips. If you have an idea of what kind of color schemes you want to use before you go, that will help you, because then you can go grab a couple paint chips. And I wouldn't take one of everything at a store, because then they won't want you to come back. Just grab some at one store. Next time you're out, grab some at another store so you can use them. Because what you're going to be doing for this part of the assignment is making 6 of those 4x4 tiles with color collages. And the color collages, I talk about it down here more in more detail. You guys are artists. You know what makes for good color schemes. What you're going to be doing is picking 3 of those color schemes. And those color schemes are monochromatic, achromatic, complementary, triadic, analogous, and tetradic. So there's several different ones to choose from. But you're going to pick 3 of those. And with those 3 color schemes, you're going to pick a primary color, and use that color wheel to help you generate the other colors that you're going to use around with it. And you're going to make a collage using the color scheme for each of those 6 tiles. And the way you're going to do it, you've picked 3 different color schemes, and you're going to make 2 variations of each of those 3 color schemes. And that will give you 6 color sets to make your collages with. I want you to look at these samples to give you some idea of what that might look like. I really like what this person did. They used the color chip samples that they got for free from Home Depot. And they didn't just put like this one right here with the felt. This is an orange background with a yellow stripe across it, and it's technically analogous, but this is really boring. There's not much activity going on, and you guys are art students, and I expect a lot more out of you. But this one is really very cool, very simple. This is an analogous color scheme with several different shades of purple, and this would be even better if they had more shades of purple. This one is complementary. You have purple and yellow, but on the yellow they use several different shades of yellow, and on the purple they use several different shades of purple. And that looks pretty interesting. And then down here, they actually cut cut pieces out of a magazine to get images to make this. And this is more of a tetradic or a triadic color scheme. And then they use different colors with the same color schemes on the other side. A different color with same color scheme, for example, if it's monochromatic, the other side of this, or the other tile that was monochromatic, you could use different shades of red or different shades of orange. For another tile variation on this that is complementary, you could use blue and orange or green and red. And for the triadic one, they could use maybe yellow is the anchor color instead of purple. Does this make sense with what I'm asking for?
Yeah, for me, it does.
How about you, Emmeline? Does that make sense? All right, well, I hope so. I'm going to assume that you're at your job, which makes it so you can't talk back, which is fine. Now, for the other cube, what you're going to be doing is making a textural exploration. And you can see these are different examples of texture. The person made texture by carving directly into the cardboard. And they made some really interesting textural designs. And you can use cardboard, but I also suggest that you go on a senses walk where you just walk around and pay attention to the textures in your environment. And in that case, so 6 of the tiles you've used to generate color collages. 6 of the tiles you're going to be generating textural collages. And sometimes you can put a texture on you just use the same texture throughout, but this becomes more interesting if you use different areas of texture on the tile. Now this person did both, where this face here that's white, they used textural areas and kind of broken it up, but then they also used the same texture all the way across. What's interesting about this is that the person, and this is something that I suggest to consider, after making their textured tiles, they sprayed and painted everything the same color. And by doing that, the part of it that is emphasized is just the textural application. This person found different textures on their walk, and they combine it with different textures that they made of material that they found in the house. And then when they were all done making their cube, they spray painted the whole thing one color. That way the texture stands out. So you're going to be making 2 cubes, one with just texture tiles and one with just color collage tiles. And so hopefully this makes a lot of sense. If anybody has any questions about it, we'll address it and we'll talk about it more next week. And we're also going to be talking about how we can move this forward. Next week is going to be kind of exciting because we're going to have our first 2 artistic critiques that you guys will send me, and we'll be able to share that with everybody. That'll be very cool to see. But the thing that I will do as soon as we get off of this call, I will find a better color wheel program and I will plug it in right here so that it's a lot more clear as to what we're doing with those colors. And like I said, I think that the problem is that my monitor might be off color-wise. I don't know, but it definitely does not look quite right. So I will fix that. All right, do either of you have any questions about the material that we've covered tonight? Well, if not, I hope that everything makes perfect sense. If you do have questions after reading the material in the module and watching this video, please email me. I am finding that a lot of the times, especially when you guys are engaged and asking me questions during the course of the video that we make, that is able to answer most of the questions that people have. So if you guys don't have any further questions, and we've covered everything I need to today, I'm looking forward to what you guys submit for this artistic critique for next week. That'll be really exciting. And I am looking forward to a great weekend. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend until we visit with each other again next week. All righty?
All right.
Okay, I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. And be safe and take care of yourselves.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.